Hello, everyone. You're listening to Cinema 5000. My name is Mallory. This is my podcast. I've got 5 movies to talk to you about on this episode. And just a warning, uh, there is likely only going to be one more episode from now through mid-September because I'm going to be gone for a while and not necessarily, from what I assume, not necessarily capable of recording an episode. So do not expect there to be another couple episodes in a month from now. Oh no, I'm thinking just one more next week and then it's vacation time. But we'll see. I just expect an interruption because I don't know. It's becoming difficult enough for me to record an episode these days. So then adding the factor that I'm just going to have some interruptions in life. Yeah, don't bet on it. But if it happens, it happens. Okay. We are currently at 5,843 films. So we need to start. We're going to start with New Year's Day from 1989, directed by Henry Jaglom. The tagline is, "Time to move on." A man returns to his sublet apartment to find the previous tenants, 3 offbeat young women, still in residence, under the mistaken belief that they have the apartment until the end of New Year's Day. A funny coincidence of sorts, and people just interacting and being like, well, why are you here? Well, we have this time. It's New Year's Day. No. You're supposed to be out on the 31st. But we have the apartment through the 1st. No, you don't. So Henry Jaglom actually plays the character Drew, who has the apartment, and these 3 women are there, played by Maggie Wheeler, Gwen Wells, and Melanie Winter. And they're just all very eccentric and, unique in their own ways. And these people all interact together. Now, as the movie progresses, there's a party that happens, so even more people come over. And it all becomes this kind of investigations of persons and their lives and their issues, very conversational wise, and it might remind you a little bit of a Woody Allen film, but I didn't think of it that way. I went into this thinking, okay, there's just a lot of characters, and from what I know about Henry Jaglom, not very much. He's very much an observant filmmaker. So if anything, this movie kind of reminded me of the Before trilogy, but really just Before Sunset. It's just people talking about life and the things they know and their relationships, and maybe things happening between them, how they talk to each other and what they learn from each other in this very confined setting of this apartment, which actually is pretty big for an apartment if just one man is renting it and then these 3 women are there. But I don't know what else to describe about this other than it just sort of has this tone, this feeling of this odd nature of how these people are just, all strangers, but in one day and through the evening, they all kind of get to know each other. And along the way, a couple performers you might recognize show up. I don't know if you'd recognize Milos Forman, but he's in this, and as well the actor David Duchovny, but they just have small parts, and it's talking about, these people in their lives. And there's some discussion about therapy and how one therapist talks about women and their relationships and how he works with them. And it's a very adult comedy / drama, but never really too heavy on any subject matter. It all kind of dances around these people, and I found it quite charming. I was really into this. It's very talky, and I think talky is a good thing. More movies about these days, kind of about just adults doing adult things. I feel like movies like that aren't necessarily made these days a lot, and if they are, they're independent. And this was the 80s. This was 1989, so this was kind of what the indie filmmaking scene was. It was just movies about people and tales that are simple and maybe expansive, and there's plenty of characters who come through the door of this apartment. So I would recommend New Year's Day from 1989, directed by Henry Jaglom. I gave this 3 stars. I had first heard about Henry Jaglom on some old episode of Siskel and Ebert that I saw on YouTube. I think, which movie were they talking about? Oh goodness. I want to say they were probably talking about Last Summer in the Hamptons, but I could be wrong about that. That's from 1995. I don't know. I couldn't tell you for sure, but anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and try to watch more Henry Jaglom films because he's made a number of movies. Or maybe it was Baby Fever. Yeah, I think it was Baby Fever. That one looks familiar. Yep, and it's in my watch list. That would make sense. That one's from 1994. But anyway, yeah, Henry Jaglom. I'll check out more of his movies, and I recommend New Year's Day. You can watch this on Canopy. It is available through that service and that service only. No, actually, it's available Roku with ads. Fossum. I'm not sure what that service is. I'm not familiar. And then it is actually a digital rental, so that's cool. I was under the impression it was just on Canopy. Glad to be wrong. Up next, we have The Fantastic Four: First Steps from 2025, directed by Matt Shakman. The tagline is, "Welcome to the family." Against the vibrant backdrop of 1960s-inspired retro-futuristic world, Marvel's first family is forced to balance their roles as heroes with the strength of their family bond, while defending Earth from the ravenous space god called Galactus and his enigmatic herald, the Silver Surfer. This stars Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Ebon Moss-Bachrach, and Joseph Quinn as the Fantastic Four. Pedro Pascal, he is playing Reed Richards, aka Mr. Fantastic. Vanessa Kirby, Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman. Ebon Moss-Bachrach is Ben Grimm, aka The Thing, and Joseph Quinn is Johnny Storm, aka Human Torch. Now, I don't think this movie has like a really great story, anything like that. I don't think the effects are that great. In fact, they look kind of shoddy at times. It does feel a bit pieced together, I think, in the first act, but once the stuff started going down with Silver Surfer and the introduction to Galactus, I actually quite enjoyed the film. I think the way that it used the effects, the better effects that is, because when they're bad, they're bad. The way it goes into space and sort of builds up Galactus and has like scale for like, you know, this environment that Galactus has, you know, out there in the universe. I was enjoying myself. I was like, yeah, I like this. It didn't feel necessarily cheap. Now, I say that because I think a lot of Marvel movies play it pretty safe, and I would say this one does, but I think the way that it has details of like the creation of characters and then the performances, I think were a little like just slightly above average. Like it sort of gave me something that had like a little bit more feeling, like intent, like it meant to be this way, and it was successful in that way. I especially liked Galactus. I really liked not only the casting of Ralph Ineson as Galactus, because like his voice is like so deep, and then you add a boom to it. Yeah, it's a great casting. And then I was hesitant about Julia Garner as Silver Surfer, but I liked what they did with her character and the general design. Like at first it was kind of like, that looks weird, but it doesn't look that bad. I say all this because I didn't feel a lot of things about this movie, but it did have something to it. I'm trying to convey here through what it was actually doing and the structure, and I thought the performances were fine. So I think it's a more or less fairly successful Marvel film. I mean, I'm not someone who's overly concerned about those movies. I haven't seen all of them. The ones I haven't seen are just like a couple recent ones. Like I haven't seen Thunderbirds. Thunderbolts, yeah, not birds. Thunderbolts. I haven't seen that one, and I don't care enough about Endgame to bother with that one. So as much as there are other Marvel movies coming in the future, I don't know, but I will say Fantastic Four: First Steps did work for me. It especially worked a lot better than something like Superman that just came out this summer. So I would recommend this over Superman, and I would recommend it if you're a fan of the performers, and this Vanessa Kirby especially. She was really terrific in this part. Like, it's one thing for an actor to sort of like just get this part that's kind of like, you know, you're just this like, you know, known character, you're playing them, but I think she just kind of had like, you know, on paper she works as this character, and in practice she works as this character really well. And I will say Joseph Quinn, I was really hesitant about his casting, but I thought he was fine. But then again, I don't think Johnny Storm has a lot to do in this movie, so it is really more about Reed and Sue because of the way that the plot goes. I'm not going to spoil it. But then again, the stuff to do with the plot led way to a lot of very unsatisfying effects to do with what they have. You know, I'm not going to spoil. But yeah, Fantastic Four: First Steps from 2025, directed by Matt Shakman. I gave this one 3 stars. It's fine, and it is probably the best Fantastic Four movie ever made. I haven't seen them all. I did see the one back that came out in 2000, was it 5 or 6, whatever. Directed by Tim Story. I want to say it was Tim Story. Yeah. I'm gonna double check. Tim Story. Oh gosh, do you remember those movies? Um, yes, he did direct both Fantastic Four films from the 2000s. Okay, it was 2005. I will say that movie has the better Johnny Storm. It has the better Ben Grimm / The Thing. But it does not have the better Reed Richards and Sue Storm. So, there you go. Victor Von Doom, I'm indifferent on the casting of that, even though I do really like Julian McMahon. Rest in peace, buddy. I really like Julian McMahon. He was so great in shows like Nip Tuck. Have you ever seen Nip Tuck? Oh, what a show. Very sleazy and very fun. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on from Fantastic Four. Another Pedro Pascal movie. It's Eddington from 2025, directed by Ari Aster. The tagline is "Hindsight is 2020." In May of 2020, a standoff between a small-town sheriff and mayor sparks a powder keg as neighbor is pitted against neighbor in Eddington, New Mexico. This stars Joaquin Phoenix as Sheriff Joe Cross. He has a standoff of sorts with Mayor Ted Garcia, who's played by Pedro Pascal. Up front, I want to say there was not enough of Ted Garcia, Pedro Pascal, in this movie to really make it a fair shake. So much of this movie is centered specifically on Joe Cross and how he reacts to things that are happening in this small town of around 2,000 people, and the way that people are reacting to COVID and businesses and, wearing a mask or not, and, like how people are partaking things to make people's safety, reality or not. And I think this movie, I don't have a lot of good things to say about it. And I think it's a very, very big script problem, because this movie kind of wants to have it both ways when it comes to talking about how things were in 2020, and I don't think that's a very fair argument, especially to do with the right-wing ideas and then the left-wing ideas that it wants to show oh my gosh, look at these two sides of this argument, are they both silly? And it's kind of like that's not really great. Didn't really care for the execution of these characters. I think Joaquin Phoenix was kind of bumbling around, and it felt like a caricature. It really didn't feel like a living, breathing character. It was just silly. And then the mayor character, just not enough of him in this movie. And the way that the movie talks about his son and his family and how the youth are reacting to what's going on, it just felt like a plot line added for no reason. I get that there was a reason in what it wanted to convey about these, issues with people and the dynamics, but I also just don't think it was very well done. This is a movie that really wants to have a conversation about things, but I think it really has no idea how to tie it all together. It's like these things were kind of all happening, whether it became, people being indoctrinated by ridiculous ideas, InfoWars kind of bullshit, and then people, fighting against protocols that could save lives for COVID. And I don't think this movie has a very good grasp on how to talk about those things. It reminded me a lot of the Adam McKay movie Don't Look Up. But as much as I really hated that movie, that movie might have had a better idea of how to talk about things. Unfortunately. Yeah, I found this to be a very, it was kind of like, when you're a little kid, you've got two magnets and sometimes the magnets work together and then they, kind of detract and they don't stick together. And it's like, why are you trying to force these two magnets to connect? It's not gonna work. I don't know what else to say about this one. I just found it to be like a whole lot of hot air. And yeah, you might like this movie, you might find it very entertaining, but I found it to just be kind of like, okay, this is really no different than like some old man, yelling at a cloud, like, can you believe this bullshit? Can you believe these things? And it's like kind of like, hey, what's the point here? What are we doing here? And I don't think it treated any characters very well, and I was left with a lot of really unfortunate questions of like the motivations for why Ari Aster wanted to tell this tale. And here's me saying something that, as much as I really did not like this movie, is this the best Ari Aster movie I've seen? Yeah, probably. I have come out of every one of his movies so far and just being like, that's just really not my thing. And especially came out of this one, really questioning, why everything was so surface level. It's like you had 2.5 hours to do what you wanted to do, to talk about the events of this, history, and, skewer it however, and, maybe get the people in the audience, on your side. And I'm just left feeling like, oh, great, cool. Thanks so much for sharing your perspective on these people and the events that have happened that, killed a lot of people. Cool, great job. Yeah, so Eddington from 2025, directed by Ari Aster. Sadly, it gets 2 stars. Yeah. Okay, so on a better note, moving on from Eddington, we're going to talk about It's Never Over, Jeff Buckley from 2025, directed by Amy J. Berg. Rising musician Jeff Buckley had only released one album when he died suddenly in 1997. Now, never-before-seen footage, exclusive voice messages, and accounts from those closest to him offer a portrait of the captivating singer. I remember where I was when I learned that Jeff Buckley died. I was vaguely familiar with his music at the time, like as an up-and-coming artist. I was a teenager watching MTV. I mean, I was actually a preteen watching MTV. And when he died, I was only 12 years old. So I was watching MTV News, and it was like, Jeff Buckley has died, and it was shocking, because I knew he was just a newer performer, singer, songwriter, and I didn't have the time in that moment to really be like, whoa, we lost that guy, and his music was so great. I was more so an outsider. And in the years since his passing, I did get his album Grace, and it was one of those albums that I would just listen to all the time, like destroyed the CD, cracked the case a million ways, in my car, in my CD player at home. It was one of those albums that I wore out completely, and it's on me. I never really took the time to look into more about Jeff Buckley's life. So watching this documentary, I was coming in as someone who was a fan exclusively of his music and wasn't really familiar with his life. So I can't speak to this documentary and what it shows as someone who was like a fan in the sense that I know all about his life, all about his inspirations, all about his home life. I did know his father was Tim Buckley, though, and the beginning of this documentary does talk about Jeff's life, having his father, but then not having his father around, and his mother talking about how he would sing, and it was kind of evident that Jeff would also become a performer just like his father. He did not have much of a relationship with his father, and when his father passed away, Jeff, in that time, eventually, as the years went on, came into his own, and there was this tribute that the documentary talks about in New York City where they did a tribute to Tim Buckley, and Jeff performed on stage, and that's kind of where Jeff got his break of sorts, as it's trying to convey. But he was also performing in New York City at the time, as a coffee shop. I mean, the coffee shop era of 90s New York was much different than the coffee shops of today, for sure. Like, coffee shop culture was a thing, and I was so familiar in that as someone who has like lived near a college town for a good chunk of my life. Like, the sort of beatniks and the scene was just much different than what it is now. But performers could go, in a lot of coffee shops and just perform and sort of, get out their kinks of their music and figuring out their songwriting and such. And that's what Jeff did at this one coffee shop, according to the documentary, where he would perform his music and just, become like the guy that everybody wanted to see perform. And then eventually he made his album Grace, and Grace is it is a tremendous album. If you've never heard that album, please do so. The songs that Jeff has covered, the songs that Jeff wrote, great music, like all of it. Such a tremendously talented performer, and I felt a lot of sadness watching this documentary because it made me way more aware of the impact Jeff had in the music community and with his friends and just in general. And I really liked this documentary. I really like how it talked about Jeff. And it was the kind of documentary you'd hope to see, I guess you could say. A lot of talking heads, sure, but the way that it talks about his music and the way it conveys who he was as a person, I think it did a really good job. And it also helps that they had a lot of footage of him, a lot of his writings, and things that were information from his friends, his former girlfriends and such. And I think this is a successful documentary, and it's been a while since I've seen a documentary that I would actually strongly recommend. I would strongly recommend this one. I can't say it's like a 4-star documentary because it does follow a lot of the same kind of conventions you expect, but I like this. It made me want to go back and listen to Grace again, even though it would kind of hurt a little bit, just knowing that, like, yeah, he didn't finish that second album. He passed away, and Jeff is, we're able to listen to his music and remember him, and it's really sad. And I cried so much watching this documentary because it was just heartbreaking, because he was just himself. It feels like in this day and age, artists are built up to be this thing, and they have to kind of control their image to the best of their ability, though the album label, will say otherwise. But Jeff, down to like even talking about how they made the cover for Grace, like Jeff was trying to, do his best to be himself, and I think he did a really fantastic job on his music. You should watch this documentary. It's Never Over, Jeff Buckley, from 2025, directed by Amy J. Burke. I gave this 3.5 stars. As of now, yeah, this is probably one of my favorite movies of the year. I was very, very lucky to see it in a theater. I will say that for sure, because it was just playing like random AM showings, and they'd be like a 1 o'clock showing at my theater, and I had like plans for like a Saturday morning ish, and then those plans fell apart, and I like literally just like put some dry shampoo in my hair, put on a clean shirt, and got in my car at like 10 something in the morning, just went to the theater. I walked in, the movie was starting. I was like, thank goodness, because I was like, if I'm gonna get to this documentary at the theater, it's a 10 o'clock show, they got previews, commercials, got to get there as soon as I could. And I was very happy I did that. I was very happy I made the effort, and I gotta assume, because of what the production is for this, it's the Music Box series of documentaries, there's been a number on HBO, that this will be on HBO Max pretty soon. I will maybe say when it happens. I think it's inevitable, but either way, look for it. It's Never Over, Jeff Buckley. And if you haven't listened to the album Grace, listen to that album. And now our final movie on the episode is On Becoming a Guinea Fowl, from 2024, directed by Rungano Yoni. There is no tagline for this movie. On an empty road in the middle of the night, Shula stumbles across the body of her uncle. As funeral proceedings begin around them, she and her cousins bring to light the buried secrets of their middle-class Zambian family. Now, this is a movie that it might have a familiar kind of storyline. Somebody dies, the family all get together, they go through with the proceedings for, a wake, a funeral, the burial, however they get through the grieving process. But there are secrets, there are things that we learn with our characters as things progress in the days and events surrounding the family and the closing of a chapter on someone's life. And the lead character, Shula, who's played by Susan Chardy, she goes through most of this journey with us as viewers as we follow her along, from just one night where the body is discovered, and then through the days where she's interacting with her family members, her cousins, and then has to kind of move through the motions of life and, time, grappling with things that she didn't know before that change her perspective on the person who has passed, her uncle. I don't want to spoil the movie, but I will say, for a movie that, is kind of like got some heavy subject matter to it, it's only 99 minutes long. This is not a big investment of your time. I will say this is a very entertaining film, and how it talks about these things and these people and how they all have like their inputs on how things should go about. But Shula's kind of stuck in the middle of like, oh my gosh, these family members, they're all crazy. But then as things go, we learn more things that are shocking, and how it affects the family, how they react, how maybe some people say, oh, it's no big deal, whatever, it's, bygones be bygones. But in this case, dead men definitely tell tales as the family and the story unfolds and how they react to it. So no spoilers here, but I definitely recommend this one. Rungano Yoni's other film that has like had a lot of notoriety is the movie I Am Not a Witch, and I've never seen that one. Been meaning to see it for a really long time, and now that I've seen this and I enjoyed this movie, I gave it 3 stars. I'm definitely gonna have to check it out. I also need to mention, because I don't want to spoil it, but cinematography is done by David Gallego. David Gallego also shot the movie I Am Not a Witch, and also a couple other recent movies that you may know. Embrace of the Serpent, which I've been meaning to see for a long time, and then also this movie Rebel Ridge, which you may have heard of, that was, kind of, how shall I say it? Is it a Netflix movie? I think it's a Netflix movie. But On Becoming a Guinea Fowl, great looking movie, good script, good performances. Don't want to spoil it, sorry. I know, short, but check it out. It is available now on HBO Max, and you can also rent it. It's like one of those $5.99 rentals. I heard of this movie, I want to say more than a year ago when it was at Sundance. I want to say it was at Sundance, and then A24 acquired it and kind of squandered the whole thing. Wah wah. Bad on them. Do better with your smaller movies. Who cares if they don't have Joaquin Phoenix in it or not, or Pedro Pascal, I think this is a good one that I haven't had a lot of people, or at least seen a lot of people talking about, especially on Letterboxd. And it played festivals. It played like the Independent Film Festival of Boston, like Fall Focus that they do, and I didn't go to that this past year rather. And I'm kind of bummed because this would have been a really good one in that theater with that kind of audience, and I think you should give this one a shot. In fact, I think this movie is like one I would recommend to my parents too. I just think they would enjoy it. Just the way that the movie talks about people, and it's very, come on, everybody's got a family in one way or another, or you got friends, and how people react to things. It's just a very, not too expansive or out there story. Oh no, it's just about people, and I like this one. So On Becoming a Guinea Fowl from 2024, directed by Rungano Yoni. Give this 3 stars, like I said. And I Am Not a Witch. I will give that a shot very, very soon. Well, that is the episode. Coming down the pike, what am I seeing for movies? Well, since I'm not really sure how many more episodes are coming soon, let's just say I know that Caught Stealing is coming out, and I really want to see Caught Stealing, so I think the next episode will have Caught Stealing. I guess I could say that the next episode comes out like Labor Day weekend or so after I've seen Caught Stealing. But I also want to see, what do I want to see that's coming out? Honey Don't, and gosh, what's the other one that's coming out? Not Honey Don't, and what? I gotta go to the release calendar because I'm missing something. Oh yeah, Highest to Lowest. Our theater didn't get it, so it's not in this episode. I was kind of holding out, hoping I could see it. No, none of the theaters in my area got it. I would have gone down to Boston, and things were just not in the cards for that. So I sadly will not be seeing Highest to Lowest anytime soon. Have to wait for streaming. Yes, the other movie I want to see that's coming out is Eden. Now, you're like, what's Eden? Well, this is a movie that actually got really good, I want to say, not hype, just notes about it. Like, I've heard some good things about this movie. It's directed by Ron Howard. Definitely not my favorite filmmaker in any stretch of the word, but I'm intrigued by this movie. It's a thriller. It has Jude Law, Ana de Armas, Vanessa Kirby, Daniel Bruhl. It's about these people who went to the Galapagos Islands and like tried to start their own society. I think that's what it is about. Maybe, vaguely. I know it's about the Galapagos. But there was this documentary also made about these people in real life. Now I'm going to have to watch that documentary before I see the movie. Yeah, okay, setting myself up for all these things I'm going to talk about on the next episode. Let's hope. But yeah, I will probably get to the movies a couple-ish times. I've already just mentioned a couple movies I want to watch. So, the next episode will have a number of things, even though it might be a little further away than you might be thinking. That's okay. Whatever. All right, I'll work it out. But anyway, if you're someone who listens to the podcast on general podcast apps like, Apple Podcasts, Google, and Amazon, if you haven't subscribed, why don't you subscribe? If you're someone who listens to podcasts through YouTube, why don't you subscribe to the YouTube Cinema 5000 podcast? Cinema5000.com is where all the blog updates are. And then Cinema 5000 on Bluesky is where you can follow the podcast as I tell you that I'm making new episodes, and then don't do it. I've been really bad about that lately. So I think from now on, if I'm typing on Bluesky about an episode, I've already recorded it. So not going to set myself up for failure just because of how life is. But yeah, thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you want to send an email, send it to cinema5kpod@gmail.com. My name is Mallory. This is my podcast. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you go out there and find something good to watch, some movie you enjoy, or maybe something you don't enjoy. At the very least, watch a movie. Enjoy it. I know I try to do that all the time. All right, take care. Bye.